NICT Chat is a series of podcasts discussing important issues, encouraging both an open exchange of different views and constructive dialogue. The ultimate goal of NICT Chat is to provide a forum where civil discourse can occur on many pressing issues facing people today, in an effort to create solutions through facilitating respectful dialogue on often tough questions.
Welcome, everyone, to NICT Chat, the National Institute for Civil Discourse's podcast program. I'm Ted Celeste, the founder and director of Next Generation, a program of the National Institute. And the National Institute was created right after the tragic shooting of Gabby Giffords. And the folks that created it were trying to make something good to come out of a tragic situation. And the Institute was designed to provide opportunities for developing civil discourse among the public, in the media, and among elected officials. Next Generation, in particular, is a program that is focused on state legislatures around the country. And we have run 17 workshops, half-day workshops, called Building Trust for Civil Discourse in 12 states in the last 3 years. We've managed to reach over 400 legislators, and these workshops have been led by 35 legislators who've been trained by NICD to be facilitators for these programs. And most recently, we just had a program in the state of Idaho where the whole legislature participated for the half-day workshop, and it was very exciting. One of the consequences of this activity is the creation of the national network of state legislators committed to civil governance. And this was created in August in Seattle at the National Conference of State Legislators Annual Summit. And we now have over 50 legislators from 20 different states who have joined this effort to share best practices, spread the civility message, and prepare those legislators who will move on to Congress to be adept at finding common ground. And many of the legislators, indeed, Congress has over 50% of their members coming from state houses, so we see the national network as a great training ground. And with us today, we just announced that the two co-chairs for our program, and with us are Representative Stephanie Howse, a Ohio Democrat from Cleveland, and Representative Matt POULIOT, from the Republican from Maine, from Augusta, Maine. And I'll let each of them introduce themselves and say a little bit about themselves and give a brief overview of the work that they're doing. So, Stephanie, take it away.
Well, I guess greetings, good morning, good afternoon, all that great stuff. I am State Representative Stephanie Howse from the 11th House District, which is in northeastern Ohio, covering parts of Cleveland, Garfield Heights, and Newburgh Heights. I'm in my first term as a state legislator, and I serve on 3 committees, the ranking member on Community and Family Advancement, Energy and Natural Resources, and the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And, you know, I really am, again, very excited to take this journey to be a co-chair with NICD and Next Gen. And so I'm really looking forward to really definitely for myself growing in this area. You know, many times in the legislature, it can be a bit challenging to be civil at times, admittedly, you know, but just to look at the atmosphere, but to have a broader understanding of what civility can mean, especially when it comes from the leadership. And we are leaders throughout our states and our communities and even across the country. And if we are able to show just each other and our constituents and other stakeholders how to be civil with one another. I just know it will make a difference in the lives of our young people, especially. And because most people, they don't listen to what you say, they listen to what you do. And I think this is such a very timely initiative, and to be a part of that, and to someone that can model this behavior and help others find just their voice and how we all can be better examples, is really something that I think is just a very worthy goal, and I'm very excited to, like I said, take this journey with Matt and the whole family of NICD.
Great, thank you, Representative, and you can see why we're excited about having Representative House as one of our co-chairs. Representative POULIOT.
Sure. Good morning. It's great to be a part of this program today. I wanted to say first to Stephanie, it's great to be partnering with you in this effort. You've got a ton of energy, and I think that that level of excitement brought to our national network is just what we need. Civility is something that a lot of times people grapple with, and Stephanie mentioned it as well in her comments. What does civility mean? And I think that, a lot of times people think, oh, it just means we're always going to get along and agree with each other. And I don't necessarily believe that that's the case, and that's certainly not the goal of our work. However, I think it is possible to disagree in politics and still not do that by vilifying the other person. And I think a lot of the work that we're trying to do in this effort is to show legislators across the country that just because somebody has a different opinion than you do on a matter doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It's just that they look at the issue through a different lens and they have come to a different conclusion. Unfortunately, what plays well to the base, so to speak, across our nation is when somebody is vilifying somebody else, because it plays on natural human instincts to get involved in something when somebody else is the bad person and you're the good person. And I think that part of the work that we're trying to do is show people how they can get things done in politics without having to resort to those kinds of methods, and much more than that as well. But part of this national network is to really start laying the groundwork in the state legislatures for modeling this good behavior, and then hopefully we'll see that play out at the national level.
That's great. Hey, thanks so much, Matt, and I hope you both don't mind me calling you Matt and Stephanie. So one of the things that I think folks might be interested in is what in particular drew you to the work of the Institute and this particular program. Matt, do you want to take a go at that?
Are you speaking of what we do with the trainings themselves?
Yes.
Yeah. The trainings are range in length from 3 to 4 hours, depending on where we are. And in some cases, we've been looking at trying to create whole day events around this. And now in some states where we've had initial trainings, we're looking at expanding that to going more in depth. But one of the primary takeaways, I think, for a lot of the legislators that participate in this training is the political journey, where you really explain to the other people in the group how you became who you are in terms of where you are politically, but also maybe some of the things that shaped your points of view and how you look at various issues. And I think it really helps to humanize the people that are in the group. I don't want to say it's like therapy, but it does have kind of a collaborative feel to it, in the sense that people are able to openly share their thoughts and feelings and describe to people how they kind of got to where they are at in life. In a lot of cases, you see an overlap in events that occurred for individuals, and how they related to those events might be completely different. And that to me has been very interesting, to see how two people can look at the same thing and have a profoundly different experience based on just how they were brought up and the experiences they've had in life. And so this political journey exercise helps individuals to understand that the person that sits on the other side of the aisle isn't just Joe Smith from Kennebunkport, but he's actually somebody that has a story to tell, and they have an opportunity to hear that. And I think that it provides a lot of opportunity for legislators who have never really taken the time to get to know other people that they work with on a daily basis in that kind of more personal way. And we hear that it does. It is the most impactful part of the exercise that we do.
I appreciate you sharing that. And one of the things that I remember you're mentioning when you went through the experience was someone related their personal experience, and you said, that's really powerful for me. That used to be history, but now it's very personal. And because of the opportunity to hear someone's view, and now instead of just thinking about it historically, you had a much better personal view and what happens to somebody when they go through that experience. How about you, Stephanie, in terms of the political journey? What kind of experience was that for you?
So for the political journey, it's just always very intriguing to me to really get a better feel of what brought people to this place, so what brought the men and women, that I work with, or colleagues, that I went through the training with, like what brought them into politics to walk in this space of being a state legislator. And it's so surprising. You're like, some things happened before I was born, which kind of mold
Right.
people and things, and it's like, there's just so much. It's so much more to people than what we see, and to see that it may be a moment, a very historical moment, but it can also be a very personal moment, from things that may happen in your home, in a workplace. These things really, really at least open me up, and then sometimes can have allowed me to let my guard down a little bit, to really say, even when people talk about the political journey, I've been that much more interested in trying to get to know people on a more personal level, and to see if there is some common ground for us to do things in the future. It really gave me an opportunity, to look at people in a different way and have a greater appreciation. And I think that is one of the powers of the political journey. You really, as Matt shared, you really can see people as a human. You're not just going through
Right.
the daily grind.
Right.
You really get to see people, on a very personal level, and it makes you say, they might be okay. So I think that is a real gem of the political journey.
Great. Well, we'll continue talking about the workshops in a second. This discussion makes me think about how important the work of the Institute is in 2016, being a presidential election, and a number of people being really frustrated with the level of discourse within the presidential election. And last night, an intriguing thing happened. The governor of Ohio, Governor Kasich, who finished second in New Hampshire, talked very much about the personal side of the experience for him, and how people coming up to him and sharing their personal experiences was very powerful. And it's a very different discussion than you usually hear at that level. I wonder whether either of you either saw that or had any reflections on that.
Well,
I did not watch the. Oh, go ahead,
Matt?
Stephanie.
I was going to say the exact thing. I did not watch it. I was on the road traveling back to Cleveland, from Columbus. So unfortunately, I did not hear it or see it. But just listening to your comments, one of the things that I can say, I think that's the power, of being a elected official, being a legislator. Many times you are put in positions where you can lend a voice, to things, and like civility. This is our current, um, our current message, and now that Governor Kasich has talked about it, it gives us an opportunity to bring it to an even more higher level, and really, like I said, model it. You talk about it, but also model it. And that's one of the things that I think is very key. You can talk about it, but you have to model it. And because it sounds good as sound bites, but it's a whole other thing when you are in a committee room or when you're in the chamber and people may be saying things that really challenge your values. It can be really, really difficult. But we're called to do it. We have to learn to have tough skin, and in this of service. And so, I guess that is kudos to Governor Kasich for bringing it up, because definitely on the national spotlight, the national stage, things can get very ugly. And definitely, I'm grateful for his words, and beyond his words, would hope that he would truly model that, because sometimes that has not always been the case. So hopefully he'll be true to his words. Mhm.
And Matt, how about you? Had you had a chance to see that, or?
Well, I didn't watch the debate either, but I do think that oftentimes, sometimes people run for office to spread a message, and I think everybody that's in the presidential race is certainly in it to win it, or else they probably wouldn't be sticking with it this long. But I do think that through that they have a very powerful platform to share their views on different things, and certainly you're seeing that with Bernie Sanders, who has long thought to be the far in the shadows of Hillary Clinton as a candidate, but he's used this opportunity running for office to share a message and continue sharing that message in a very repetitive way. I'm not beginning to suggest that I agree with all or nearly any of what he says. However, his approach is a good one, I think, and he has very much been committed to not going negative in his campaigning, and trying to stay positive and focused on the issues, which is what Americans really care about. They don't care that you're better than the other person. They care about that you're going to get the job done. And so I think that that this has provided an opportunity for some people to demonstrate that and some people not. I mean, a person who's been involved in this that's chosen to go negative on the Republican side, when I see commercials from Donald Trump or Ted Cruz attacking each other, to me, it's just completely distasteful. It almost negates all of the information that's contained in the commercial about the policy decision that they made or what they would or wouldn't do, because they're throwing grenades at each other. And I think in part of the work that we're trying to do with this effort is to make it so campaigns aren't so negative,
Good.
And I think we're seeing that campaigns can be successful while being positive.
Yeah, and I think that's a particular important point of what's happened with that New Hampshire finish, is that at least for the time being, there was an opportunity to do something a little different, and it showed that you can at least come in a pretty good finishing position. Well, let's get back to the workshops for a second here, and both of you have talked about the process. And one of the things that each workshop tries to do is come up in the end with an action agenda for legislators to act on. And what's been each of your experiences with that process? Have you seen any results changed as a response to what was done in your states? I want to start with you, Matt.
Sure. Maine has really made some tremendous progress in this area. We have partnered up with the Maine Development Foundation, which is really a pro-business, pro-economic growth organization in our state that was created by the legislature over 20 years ago. And this organization has really sought to incorporate these trainings and additional trainings, 2.0, 3.0, if you will, when they become available to legislators as part of the orientation. And so we're moving from being something that we hope people will come to, and promoting and asking for involvement to, more or less making it mandatory that all the legislators participate in this training. And as a new legislator, it's not like you go to your K-12 education and then maybe on to post-secondary and have training on how to be an effective citizen legislator, or what it means to be a good legislator, or even modeling of that behavior. And so this is infusing that as the way that we do business, so to speak, at least in Maine. And my goal is to try to get that type of infusion into a training on the front end of legislators becoming legislators throughout this country. But we're starting that here in Maine, and other states have really embraced the workshops and getting them more participation by leadership and so forth across the states. But I really think that if we have different legislators learning this earlier on in their legislative careers as, hey, this is the way that we're supposed to do things around here, it'll take time, but I think eventually that is a large takeaway that really can leave a meaningful change moving forward, because it's been institutionalized.
Right, great. How about you, Stephanie, in terms of results that have come out of a workshop?
So the results from our workshop, definitely, we're still a work in progress in Ohio, admittedly. But one of the things I have agreed and tried to commit to is really trying to help to facilitate more opportunities for us as legislators to get to know one another. And that seems like a very simple thing, but the way our schedule runs, many of us, like myself, like I'm there maybe a day, and if I'm there a day or two, my schedule is jam packed, and I'm doing the work of a legislator. I really, don't have that much time to do the social things, but increasingly I see how that is important, and really am trying to work with my colleagues not only in my caucus but across the aisle for us to have more opportunities to get to know one another. Just as I want people to know me as Stephanie, and I want to get to know other people just for who they are, so that we can work better together. And then beyond that, I mean, from listening to Matt, I know that there is a wonderful opportunity to bring our civility training to orientation. As we have new legislators every 2 years in the House, it really is a great opportunity, and every 4 years in the Senate, there is a strong opportunity. And so, as I have not started that work to give the pitch, there are a couple of colleagues that have gone through the training that I think I know in the next couple of months I want to reach out to them for us to kind of put together a strong pitch for our leadership in the House and in the Senate to actually embrace this. It just make it a part of the way we do business. Because I think if you do that, then you, like Matt said, you start to plant a seed that will continue to get watered, and that you will see a real change in how we interact with one another.
That's great. One of the things that we found is as we go around the country that every state's different, but there's some common themes that come out in the workshops, and one of them is just what you said, Stephanie, that there's not enough time or opportunity for individuals to work across the aisle or to find social opportunities to get together. And while it seems like a small thing to anybody who's not inside the legislature, being able to get together, to know each other, to talk about family, to know a little bit more personally, does make a huge difference. And that seems to be a common thread throughout every one of the states that we've been working in. And folks have come up with a variety of different ways to deal with that, including, for instance, even having an exchange where a Democrat and Republican will go to each other's districts and do town meetings in each other's districts or something like that. So it's been an interesting development as people look at that issue that how do you really get folks to be able to work across the aisle together? And that, I guess that raises another question, because some people have come to the workshops and said, the folks in my caucus, the Republican caucus, or the folks in my caucus, the Democratic caucus, don't think this is a good idea, and they don't want us meeting with the other side. What have you found are good ways to deal with that when you're confronted with that? Stephanie, have you had that experience?
Well, I can't necessarily say that I've had that experience. Just coming into the legislature, I definitely consider myself to be a more independent minded individual. And so I just have a different philosophy. And I want to be able to get things done. I think that's one of the things, depending on where you are in the state or in the country, it looks very differently. And, you have to, sometimes be unapologetic to represent the state, your district, to be able to get
Right.
things done, and be very open and honest about it. That's why I'm just a person who has been and really works to be very honest about what I'm trying to do. And, if I decide that I want to work with someone across the aisle, then that's what I'm going to do, and it's not to diss anyone, but that's what I want to do, because I want to be able to
Gotcha.
get things done, work with people, because when you look at the needs of people here in Ohio, there are some similarities, in some of the struggles and some of the opportunities. And again, if I can get it done and then working across the aisle for me, that's how it will likely get done. And so,
Gotcha.
I would encourage, people, individuals who may have that struggle within their caucus, to really just think about why you're there, how you can stay there, and how you may be able to grow the level of cooperation amongst your colleagues in order to
Let
get
me
great.
interrupt you for a second, Stephanie. Matt, are you still there? I know Matt had to run off to another meeting. Are you there, Matt? Still?
Yeah, I'm still here, and I would say that the same as Stephanie. I wish I had more time to discuss this today.
Right, I understand, and we really appreciate your being here with us. We'll continue with Stephanie. Is there anything before you sign off that you'd like to say about the involvement? Anything you want to encourage people to participate, etc.? Matt, did you disappear? Okay, so let's go back to one more question for Stephanie, and which would be, what would you say to folks, your colleagues, both in Ohio and around the country, about joining you in this process? How do you plan on getting people engaged in the process?
So first and foremost, for individuals who are thinking about it, I would definitely encourage them to join, but more importantly, understand that if you show any type of interest, you will receive some type of communication from myself, Matt, or the other staff members within NXTGen. And I also, um, I always think about bringing the human side to things, because many times, you're just so caught up in the work, you just forget, like, man, this is just, we're just people, this is my brother, this is my sister, this is my friend, my next door neighbor, however you want to look at it. And, one of the things I always like to bring is kind of some fun, lively things, of showing, maybe demonstrating the correct way to do things, and then demonstrating the things that we should not do, just to make people think a little bit more about what we're doing in our work, in our service to people. And hopefully when people read something, or when they see something, and they see, like, oh, maybe I've been caught, been guilty of doing a behavior that is not that civil, they'll think twice about it. And then there'll be others that will be more inspired to come and become a trainer, so that we can help people learn how to be more civil, how we can be more respectful to one another, to listen to someone's opinion that may be very different than ours, but say, okay, well, we can just agree to disagree and tomorrow still be friends and talk and, and greet each other. So that's kind of
Right.
I'm hoping to get out of it. What I am hoping to add to increase people's interest and beyond the interest that they will actually take action and actually do the work, which sometimes can be challenging. But I know we can get there in the
Exactly.
message to one.
So you mentioned the training, the facilitator training. Is there anything in particular that you found about that you think is helpful, just in general, as part of the process that may have been useful tools for you?
I mean, I think the thing that for me that was useful with the training is that it's not as hard as you might think. Sometimes, because again, thinking as a legislator, we come to the legislature with all different types of skills, and so sometimes when you see like an issue like civility and people trying to work with one another, and sometimes people don't do it that well, it can seem a bit overwhelming, but going through the training, I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. Like I can do this.
Right.
And so it
Right.
really helped me in my confidence in having an understanding that regardless if it's in a formal setting or an informal setting, I can be a champion for civility. And I think that's the one thing. It was a comfort to me, knowing I had this interest, but didn't necessarily know how it could actually work. The facilitator training gave me a confidence to know that I can carry this on, regardless if it's in a formal setting or, like I said, or an informal occasion, to really help my colleagues to hopefully be able to work better with one another in times where it could be a challenge.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your taking the time with us on this podcast. For the folks that are listening to this and might be interested, please know that I'm sure both Stephanie and Matt would be happy to answer any questions you have. And that, Stephanie, is there any way that you'd like to let people know how they can contact you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was going to do a shameless plug anyway. So for anybody that's on social media, anything, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, I'm Stephanie Howse, and that's STEPHANIEHOWSE. And then I've kind of started a hashtag. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Hashtag Civility Matters, where every week I try to give a tip on how we can be more civil to one another. And then I'm also, available, via phone. And I'll give my cell phone number because it's on the internet anyway. It's 216-407-0876. And I'll be more than willing and open to talk with you or anyone who may have an interest in this work that we're doing, and go from there.
Great. Thank you so much. And you can see why we're so excited to have both Stephanie and Matt as our co-chairs for this national network. I think they bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm to this process. We're excited about it. We, with our Next Gen program, also have a Twitter presence, hashtag NXTGENUSA. And we'd love to have you asking for any information, and we'll be pleased to answer as well. So thanks again for participating, and sorry that Matt had to leave early, but glad that Stephanie could stick with us, and hope that you found this of interest and that you'll join us in this effort. So, and then as a parting word that you'd like to say, Stephanie?
So my parting words for our conversation as we are looking to transform not only the legislatures across the country, but really just incorporate civility in our daily lives and how we interact with one another. I guess I'll just leave with my first tip. The first step always starts with us. So many times, we expect other people to change, but it really starts with us. And so many times when you're getting into a challenging situation, the first step will always be to remain silent for a moment, just to observe, grab your composure, and then think before you speak.
Wonderful.
It really
Well
can
said.
go a long, long way. So hopefully, first tip, think before you speak.
Well said. Thank you so much. And everybody, remember, civility matters. Pass it on. Thank you for being a part of this podcast.